It's time for a little more Peacock and Aponte this week, getting ready for the Los Angeles Rams in week 3. Injury information, bad news on George Kittle. Doubtful now for the 49ers this week with a hammy, but the defense will get a boost with Talanoa, Hufanga, all that and more. And we'll break down everything with this team and the vibes now. Is it 2020 vibes for the San Francisco 49ers? All that and more. Aponte and Peacock. All right, you all know Jason Aponte at Jason Aponte 2103 2013. Did I pick that up?
Come on.
You know where he is. You're already following him anyway. At BD Peacock. You can find me every day doing Locked On 49ers with my guy Eric Crocker. Jason Aponte, you can find him with doing Niners Nation stuff. In fact, we're going to talk about your latest with Niners Nation and the 49ers defensive line. Mm-hmm. And actually, can you tell the folks really quick what exactly your schedule is with all the podcasts you're doing right now?
Yeah, Monday and Friday, Sprint Right Option. So after this, you can catch us, me and Andrew, Sprint Right Option. Tuesday with Steph Sanchez, Bully Ball. Wednesday, State of the Franchise with Brad Graham and Peacock and Aponte on Thursdays. It sounds like today's just we had a little scheduling conflict, but yeah, that's what we got going on.
Tuesday, and then you're like, oh no, Friday. It is okay. So maybe we'll narrow down a day at one of the 5 weekdays. I think you'll hear from Peacock and Aponte here on both of our channels. Make sure you're following me on Overtime with Brian Peacock, all the extra stuff that I'm not doing at the Locked On Podcast Network, Peacock and Williamson NFL show as well. Make sure you're subscribed there. And of course, the Jason Aponte YouTube channel. We got a lot of folks joining us here in the live chat. I love it. Let's get ready for this season. I guess we got to start with the injury report and the latest news with the 49ers. And bad news, a little unexpected with George Kittle. Comes up with a hamstring injury, all of a sudden doesn't practice Thursday and Friday, and shows up doubtful now for an offense, Jason, that's already without Christian McCaffrey on IR. Deebo Samuel's going to be out a couple of weeks with his calf injury. He's already officially out in this one, didn't practice all week. Now George Kittle potentially added to the mix, doubtful, which is usually not a good sign. And I mean, it's Brandon Ayuk's season, right? It has to be.
Yeah, and to level up Jordan Mason, because if you thought 27 carries was big, man, you're gonna get the whole enchilada, the whole kiss of caboodles this time, man. I think that's gonna be the overarching theme out of this is like, okay, well, you're down a few all pros, that's not good, but you have a second team all pro wide receiver who you think very highly of. You still have a schemer and a play caller like Kyle Shanahan. And I think everybody's kind of looking at Brock Purdy like, what can you do without all of these guys? So I think this is a fascinating game, regardless of how banged up the 49ers are going into it.
Look, right away in the chat, if we want to talk vibes around the San Francisco 49ers, I don't like the vibes in the chat bringing up 2016 vibes. That's the Chip Kelly year vibes. I was working at Pro Football Focus in 2016, Adam, and I am not about those vibes because I was charting routes for the 49ers and I was doing this route charting for Pro Football Focus that season in 2016. And I was like, Niners, I cover the 49ers. Let's do some Niners routes. So I was requesting the 49ers. And by mid-season, I was like, please don't give me any 49ers games anymore. I don't want to chart this crap. I don't want to chart mesh concept all day long with this god-awful group of receivers that the 49ers have put together. Don't even start talking about 2016 vibes because at least with the 49ers and 2020 vibes, it was just injuries they were going to get over and get back to the Super Bowl, get back to the NFC Championships. The 2016 vibes were just about as bad as the 2004 Dennis Erickson vibes.
You know what's funny is Chip Kelly, obviously for everything that happened with Chip Kelly notoriously wanted the 49ers to draft Dak Prescott. And the ripple effect that may have had if the 49ers had listened to Chip Kelly, because they got rid of him pretty quickly, but he might have tried to do one good thing on his way out the door. That's always fascinating to me, that idea that he wanted Dak Prescott and they were like, nah, we're good.
The lasting Chip Kelly legacy is probably that they drafted DeForest Buckner in 2016, right?
Yeah.
Was that
if I'm not mistaken. Eric Armstead, I think, right? Yeah. Oregon.
So they gave us the Eric Armstead draft, and he brought in Raheem Mostert as a special teams guy, who ended up becoming a fantastic running back in this scheme. So that's those two players we can thank Chip Kelly for.
Breaking news: Brian Peacock announces Chip Kelly might in fact no ball.
I mean, he's a ball knower, I guess. You don't get to be a head coach in the
100%.
NFL or in college without being a ball knower. He's a ball faster. That's what he is. He wants to go fast. And I remember the big thing when he came into the NFL was like, and look, I don't want to spend too much time talking about Chip Kelly because I don't want to talk about 2016.
No, this is what they're here for.
Thanks a lot, Adam. Derailing our podcast already with a bomb in the chat. But Chip Kelly, like his big thing in college wasn't like he was a great X's and O's guru or some amazing like recruiter. He was like, we're going to go fast. We're going to go super fast. And then you go to the NFL and it's like the clock operations aren't the same. Like you can't even do that. You can go a little bit faster, but after, a season or two, he's like, it was pretty clear he didn't have any kind of advantage on his own. Niners were reeling, a one and done coach with Tom Sula. I mean, that's bad vibes. So I don't even want to talk about 2016 vibes surrounding this 49ers. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's 2020 vibes either. Nick Bosa, good year. You lose your quarterback. That's really difficult to get over. All the injuries the 49ers have, and there's too many. And I don't like this George Kittle injury now on offense. You're starting to get very thin there with the guys you can trust giving the football to on offense. But these guys are coming back. These are hamstring injuries, not ACLs, and the 49ers at some point in the near future might have Christian McCaffrey back on the field along with George Kittle, along with Deebo Samuel, and then adding a first-round wide receiver and Ricky Pearsall to the mix as well. So, yeah, this is not even close to 2016, and it's not even close to 2020 vibes, in my opinion, although it is a little frustrating to be 3 weeks in and have all these injuries starting to mount up. A get-right game against a team that's even more injured, though, against the Los Angeles Rams, too. So that's the kind of luck of the schedule with the team they get to face in week 3, and they can still get back on track, even as banged up as the 49ers are.
Yeah, I think the correlation to 2020 is obviously the injuries, but coming off the Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs and how quickly things eroded, right? Like, if you remember that 2020 season, obviously no preseason, anything like that. The 49ers play Arizona. They lose George Kittle in that game, and they lose that game kind of in an embarrassing fashion in week 1. Week 2, they go to the Jets, and Raheem Mostert pops off the first play for a touchdown. Jimmy Garoppolo goes down. Nick Bosa gets carted off. Solomon Thomas gets carted off. And then it just continued from there. So I think the correlation is obviously in your face with the injuries, but that year was coming off of a Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs. So there may be a little bit more. There may be a little bit more to that. And I love this point. I absolutely love this point. Look at every single tweet that Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport are sending. It is about who's not playing. Keenan Allen's out. Jordan Love may not play. Justin Herbert's in danger of playing. The injury bug, while it looks like the 49ers are snake bitten, is something that's going across the league, and it's league-wide. Now, is that supposed to make 49ers fans feel better? No, but I mean, it's just a fact. I mean, you've got guys tearing their Achilles. Jermaine Johnson out for the year. We saw last night, even during the Jets and Patriots game, there were some injuries. It's a league-wide thing. I can't tell you what it is, but maybe it's due to the fact that some of these guys are not playing at all in the preseason. They're ramping up and going right at it in week 1. And now you're starting to see the trickle-down effect a little bit here in week 3. So I'm not saying don't panic. I'm not saying that it's fine, but it's definitely a league-wide situation.
Including those Los Angeles Rams. At one point, it was looking like they might be out 14 starters. And both starting wide receivers are out. They've got multiple offensive linemen that are banged up. And it's not the deepest unit to start with the Los Angeles Rams. And if we're looking at the injury report with guys that aren't on IR, let's finish that up. We talked about George Kittle, doubtful. It looks like Talanoa Hufanga, full participant all week long, 10 months out from his ACL injury, and he is on track to be on the field for the first time since November for the San Francisco 49ers. Debo's already out. D. Winters has been dealing with an ankle. He was fully participating in practice this week. So another boost to the depth of the linebacker core on defense. And Nick Bosa apparently has a little bit of a rib injury and was held out on Wednesday, but he's fine. A limited participant, questionable, and that makes me think he's going to go. Charvarius Ward as well. I mean, these are big name players that are popping up on the injury list. So you never want to see names like Nick Bosa and Charvarius Ward popping up out of nowhere, and George Kittle. But Charvarius Ward didn't practice Thursday, got in a limited session Friday. He is officially questionable for Sunday. And then looking at the Rams side, no Cup. There's multiple players already on IR, including Puka Nacua. You got Tre'Davious White. You got Bobby Brown, Kevin Dotson. Looks like Dotson was practicing, so the guard might be in there for them. Tre'Davious White didn't practice on Friday. Cooper Kupp is officially already out. Backup tight end out. They got a kicker that's hurt and questionable for this game. Kobe Durant limited all this week, and then a ton of guys on IR. So not a great situation for the Los Angeles Rams, and the 49ers injuries are mounting as well. And it's always the thing you don't like, Jason, is that like these guys didn't get hurt in the game last week. All of a sudden you say, well, wait a second. I mean, Nick Bosa's rib, I'm sure, was hurt at some point, but all of a sudden, wait a second, he's limited this week and questionable. He wasn't someone we expected to see on the list. George Kittle, hamstring, he wasn't someone we expected to see on this list. And now he's not practicing all week and doubtful for the game.
Yeah, let's ban Kyle Shanahan from saying no injuries out of the game until we can talk to him on Wednesday. Let's make sure we get that. Like, don't say that anymore.
I guess adrenaline will make you feel pretty good on Sunday evening, and then you come in on Tuesday and you're like, hey, coach, remember when we said we're okay and feeling good? Guess what? My leg fell off.
Kyle said that Nick sustained the injury in practice. And then Kyle said that the Charvarius Ward and Kittle thing happened in practice following a lighter practice. And when they went through a more rigorous practice, that they came in sore, and it just continued from there. And that's really what happened. So, yeah, it's great to see Hufanga back. But again, I do think it's a little disheartening to find out that guys have just been injured in practice. In a game, it's the heat of the moment. You understand that anything can happen. Those guys are going, 1,000 miles per hour, when they play. But to have it happen in practice on top of all the other things that were happening, and then we find out after the game that Debo's calf, and it's just, yeah, I mean, sure, it's a little frustrating, but I do think it goes back to the point that we were talking about all offseason about this early part of the schedule. And the 49ers had to reel off wins before the schedule really gets tough, before you run into the Cowboys and Chiefs and you get to that later part. But, you look around at those teams, what are they going to look like when we get to that spot? What do the Miami Dolphins look like? Because we thought that was going to be a tough game. It might be Skylar Thompson playing. We don't know if Tua Tagovailoa is coming back. What's going to happen with Jordan Love? Is Jordan Love going to be okay coming off of that injury, even if he does play this week? So there's still a lot to figure out, right? And I hate to say it this way, if there was ever a time for all of this to happen, it would be early in the season and against this soft spot of the schedule, because I still think the 49ers can beat the Rams on Sunday, even with all of these injuries. And it's less based on the fact that the Rams are so banged up and more just, I think the 49ers still have enough to do it. And I think this is the time that the defense has to carry them a little bit in this one. Like, the defensive line really has to show up in this game and really shut down drives, either turn the football over or basically close the game off. We really need a big performance from this defensive line this week. I know Bosa's a little injured, but yeah, that's where I'm at right here. Is like, I think the offense does enough, but the defense has to carry them in this game and really shut this down because of what the Rams are working with offensively.
And you just posted an article at Niners Nation, right, about the 49ers defensive line. How do you feel about this defensive line overall, based on, what you thought of them coming in from the offseason, the first 2 weeks, and if this is that same type of unit that can carry the 49ers like it has in the past? Because remember, this is day one Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch stuff, where they're like, our mission statement is, and we're not even going to scout Patrick Mahomes, and who was just a prospect at this time, kind of a wild, raw prospect out of Texas Tech. And we're not going to scout those guys. We're gonna build the defensive line. We're gonna draft a Solomon Thomas. We're gonna keep building up front, because that's what we believe in organizationally. And I like that philosophy a lot. Maybe shouldn't have overlooked quarterbacks in that draft. But aside from that, like, this has been a team that's built around the defensive line. Is this that type of unit again this year in your mind, Jason?
Through 2 weeks, no. And that doesn't mean that they won't turn into that. I think it was hard to envision a line where you lose Eric Armstead and you replace him and others with a litany of people. And I can see the vision. I get it. You bring in Malik Collins, you bring in Gross Models, you bring in Leonard Floyd. This is obviously going to be by committee. And this isn't going to be there's no 1-for-1 exchange with Eric Armstead that you could find somebody and say, I can find someone at that position that's dominant. So, okay, I see the vision, right? Then the 49ers don't draft a defensive lineman in this draft, which is a shocker, like a complete shocker. I would have thought at least, even one of the later picks. But now, week one, it looked really good against the New York Jets. And then last week, it just didn't. And Leonard Floyd, clean sheet, nothing. Javon Hargrave, one pressure, Gross Models was good, 3 pressures. But as of right now, even with all those pieces, you still have Chris Kosurik. You still have talent on the defensive line. You would have thought this is a top 5 unit. Right now, they're outside of the top 10 as a defensive unit. and a little bit of Leonard Floyd, I think when I watched the All-22 and I got the game film was, he's one of those guys that needs to just straight rush the passer, get bend, get around that lineman. It felt like Sorensen was using him too much in stunts and trying to get him to free himself up that way. I think it's as simple as, and I don't want to tell Nick Sorensen what to do. I think if you've noticed how Leonard Floyd's career is gone, it's just go beat the guy in front of you, go bend around him, go straight speed rush at him. When you put guys in positions where their skill set doesn't suit, you end up with games like that. Because I remember watching the broadcast saying, where the hell's Leonard Floyd? I haven't seen him at all. It's a little bit of what the Vikings were doing with quick game, little bit on Sorensen and not putting them in the right position. So through 2 games, I don't think they've put the returns on investment that I thought they would.
It was nice seeing Yetur Gross-Matos in a 49ers uniform for the first time in a regular season game. And I was reminded of why I liked him pre-draft quite a bit. He looks the part. He's got that length and that size. It's just like prototype, 6'5", 270, 280. I don't know how big he is these days. He's the type of guy though, and he's never been that natural of a pass rusher, even though he looks the part and he's got prototype height, weight, speed, and he's a pretty athletic guy, but doesn't quite bend the edge. And he's just a weird player, but he's the type of guy I think that could really benefit from Kocurek moving around, get him on stunts, get him against guards where he is a lot more athletic than them. And so less of Floyd doing that, let him win on his own, and he knows how to win on his own. But I think you can create matchups with Yetur Gross-Matos in the Arden Key type of way, in the Amenahu type of way. And I would like to see him utilized like that and moved around. And that could really create for the 49ers. And it was cool to see Nick Bosa go out and just win against a really good tackle like Darisaw too. But despite those Bosa wins, it still just felt like not enough from the 49ers defensive line.
Yeah, and currently 13 in both pass rush and run defense grades, 26.6% pressure rate. Bosa has a 17.2% pass rush win rate, which will be the lowest of his career since his rookie season. Just looking at it a little bit deeper, 23 total pressures, 5 sacks on 64 pass rushing snaps in 2024. Floyd had 4 pressures, 3 hurries, and a sack week 1, nothing. After that, Bosa leads the team with 8 pressures and 2 sacks. Javon Hargrave, man, it's 3 pressures, no sacks in 2 games. When is it going to happen? Like, when does it start to happen? Again, and I think this matchup with the Vikings was prime time for him. Going up against Ed Graham and going up against Garrett Bradbury. Ed Graham had a 9.7 out of 100 pass blocking grade. It's just, where is it, Javon Hargrave? And I'm not going to count your pockets. I'm just talking about the player that I think you are. That's what I'm counting. I don't care about the money. I care about the player that we thought we were going to get from Philadelphia. And then, Gross-Matos, 3 pressures, 1 QB hit, and 2 hurries and 15 pass rushing snaps. You can expect that to ramp up a little. Malik Collins, has like 1 pressure, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, but he was in and out of that game on Sunday. So, yeah, right now, the defensive line, I agree with you. There's ways to use these guys. Like, I think Gross-Matos is perfect for those stunts and everything, but don't take Leonard Floyd and Bosa away from it. It should just be those guys crashing down on their player in front of them. But Gross-Matos, it felt like when you brought him in, he was like this betting on traits guy that you've been doing with Arden Key and Charles Amenahu. And I love the flexibility of him being able to rush from the outside, rush inside. And I think we saw that even a little bit last year with that terrible Carolina's Panthers team. There's plenty of that on tape. But you need more from this defensive line. And I think it starts with Javon Hargrave. It's hard not to look at him and say, hey, we need a little bit more from you, buddy.
I wouldn't mind seeing the occasional Nick Bosa moved around, even inside. Just not so much on stunts even, but just because I think, that quick hand swipe, and he could get clean breaks off of a guard in pure pass rush situations. You don't want interior offensive linemen leaning on him in the run game or anything like that. But move Bosa around as your best player. He should be a dynamic chess piece for your defense. Move him around to get the best matchups to go pressure opposing quarterbacks. And it's like they're a pro defensive line. Like I don't dislike any of them. They're good players, but there's been a real lack of like dynamic play from those guys on the defensive front the first couple of weeks, and it's felt a lot different. And I don't know if it's just just losing Eric Armstead, training him out for Malik Collins, like that's not enough. There's something else going on there. So maybe are they a little bit more worried about playing the run on the way to the quarterback? Has that been an emphasis by Nick Sorensen and Kyle Shanahan this year to make sure that they shore up the run fits first before they can go after quarterbacks. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but something does feel like it's missing just a little bit with that defensive front. And it's so important because that's what's made this team tick, is getting off the field on third down and making sure that your guys on the back end of the defense don't have to cover as long, because you're eventually going to get pressure and you're going to bring the heat on opposing quarterbacks. And the 49ers were awful getting off the field on third downs last week. It's like, oh man, okay, let's get this stop, then you can go back and win the game. And Sam Darnold, of all people, just marching right down the field on you. And it's like, even if it's a field goal, it's like, come on, you got to get that stop and get the ball back so you can go try to win this game with the offense. And they could never get that stop. They couldn't get it at the end of the first half. They couldn't get it at the end of the second half. And it's got to be something that the 49ers are able to do going forward if they want to be close to the team that they've been in the past. Yeah,
and look, again, with the emphasis about Nick Sorensen, I think a lot is been made of, where he's putting guys. I just want to remind everybody that, D'Amico Ryan's early returns, people were upset. Robert Saleh, early returns, right?
Oh, people wanted to fire Robert Saleh.
Oh, yeah. I'm old enough to remember when people wanted to fire D'Amico Ryans as well, too. Yeah. But just, again, I'm not saying that he's going to turn this defense around in that level, turn into the coordinators that they are, but we do have to give him grace a little bit. And I think that's kind of what Kyle Shanahan's emphasis was in the offseason, giving the play calling to Kubiak and then being able to listen in on the defensive calls with Sorensen. He was very involved with that last year with Steve Wilkes as well. So I think he wanted to get a jump on that, see where they were at. But I think, again, with Sorensen, I'm complaining about the way you're using Floyd. I'm complaining a little bit sometimes on the back end, especially on that touchdown with Justin Jefferson. But also, you do have to give him time. And you would expect guys to be able to make plays even when the call isn't correct. It seems like they're just a little bit off, what is it, a buck short and $1 short, something like that, like something that my father used to say, a day late and $1 short. So they're just a little bit off. They're just a little off right now, and they still have time to get it going, and I think with Charvarius Ward, it sounds like he has much more of an optimism to play based on what Sorensen said about, like, we're just being smart with him. So that's a good thing, at least, and having him out there. But if he doesn't go, then it's got to be Rock Ya-Sin probably playing for him, would you say?
I don't know. Do you think they'd be worried about throwing the rookie out there in more situations than Renardo Green?
I think they wanted to see what Green had in dime situations, and that's what Kyle was talking about in the press conference. And then when you're talking about Malik Mustafa, we got full go Talanoa Hufanga, but you're still going to get Odom and Mustafa rolling in there, so it's not going to be full complement of snaps. That was something else we found today. I think that if they were going with their gut in this game, obviously the Rams are a wounded animal. They're up against the wall, and what makes me nervous about this game is that Sean McVay is the exact coach that can navigate all these losses and find a way to put his team in a position to at least have a shot down the stretch or like make this game uncomfortable for the 49ers. But I think the 49ers are feeling similar pressure when it comes into this 1-1, all these injuries. You don't want to start to lose these games, especially a divisional game. I think they lean on Rock Ya-Sin before they go to Renardo Green right away.
You mentioned Sean McVay and the Rams, and he's a really good coach, and Matthew Stafford's a really good quarterback. And now, this might be a little bit hot takey, but I feel like Puka Nacua is quite a bit overrated coming into this year. Not that he's a bad player, but he's just tough and smart, can make catches over the middle. And they got another rookie this year, a 6th rounder, Jordan Whittington, who was kind of hidden at Texas because they had 2 first-round caliber wide receivers there. They drafted him in the 6th round. He's really similar, man. He's tough, makes catches over the middle. He might even have a little better after the catch ability than Puka Nacua. And if you plug him in just like last year when Cooper Kupp was out and Puka started going crazy, you might have another like dynamo on your hands in that role. And maybe even Cooper Kupp's somewhat overrated because of that role. Because like if you get, and look, it's funny because Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay were both college wide receivers. And it really stood out to me when Kyle Shanahan said that Ricky Pearsall reminded him of him. And I was like, well, that's not a good thing, Kyle, because you might not even, if your last name wasn't Shanahan, you might not even have been the number 4 wide receiver on that Texas roster back in the day. And I'm actually surprised being a Texas guy that the 49ers weren't higher on Jordan Whittington in the draft, because he's got that yak ability and he's kind of a Kyle Shanahan type of guy. But the one thing that those coaches are really good at is springing open receivers and, making matchups where they can get guys that can outplay their ability in some ways. And we've seen it with Cooper Kupp. Not saying that they're not good players, but I think Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua have been able to play up because they're with McVay and then especially once Matthew Stafford showed up. And so don't be surprised if someone like Jordan Whittington all of a sudden is just making a bunch of catches against the 49ers, making some plays. So you can't take them lightly, even though they're completely banged up as well, because the same thing happened last year with Puka Nacua. So nobody should be shocked if Jordan Whittington's out there and is able to make some plays.
And I'll double down on this, and I'll say Tutu Atwell and Demarcus Robinson also are going to present some interesting challenges. I mean, when you have a quarterback who can make all the throws, you don't need guys to be able to separate so far. You just need them to make their play on the back end, right? And I think, again, this is all going to come back to the defensive line, not allowing Stafford to get comfortable, move him off his spot. And when you look at the talent, you can say, yeah, no Nacua, no Kupp, what a cakewalk. No. With this offense and with the way that Sean McVay is going to be able to do it, and when you have the quarterback who can make those caliber of throws, you're going to find yourself looking around and looking up, and you're like, man, Tutu Atwell's got 77 yards. How the hell did that happen? You know, they're lining them up, matching them up with the guys that they want. When you have a quarterback who recognizes they could let that thing rip, this game can get a little hairy. So, yeah, the 49ers better not mess around here at all because this game can get a little weird. And don't let a divisional game get weird and get down to the end. Like, you know, if you're going to walk in here and think even with all these injuries, you're going to roll this team, you're sorely mistaken because Sean McVay is probably the perfect coach to be able to get a team through what they're going through right now.
There's no cakewalks in the NFL. You go through the entire offseason and you think, man, this is a good team. This is a bad team. And the distance between the good teams and the bad teams is still pretty razor thin a lot of times. And so you can't go in and overlook any opponent. And when you start to do that, it's really easy to lose a football game. And the Rams, as long as they have that coach and quarterback combination, which they still do despite the other injuries, you can't let them get that confidence. You can't let them stay in it. And I think the 49ers, look, I think they need to spread the ball around a little bit in the running game and just get more bodies on the field so you don't just completely wear out a guy who's never had that many carries in his pro career. And all of a sudden, you know, you're getting him 20 carries in his first 2 games. You don't want the wheels to fall off for Jordan Mason, even though I love Jordan Mason. But this is a game where they should be able to take advantage of that front for the Los Angeles Rams. They're all their undrafted linebackers. They just lack talent there. Braden Fisk, he's an animal as a pass rusher. He's not a good run defender. They should be able to go right at the Los Angeles Rams, and even without Kittle, be able to impose their will on them and run the heck out of the ball, and then hopefully hit some shots with Brandon Ayuk in this one, and maybe even rookie wide receiver Jacob Cowing. Did you hear John Lynch on KNBR this morning say that? And I don't even know. Kyle Shanahan might have said, "Hey, John, why'd you say that, man? Why are you putting this out there into the world?" He said, "Quote, Jacob Cowing may get some ops," which tells me that he's watching practice and he knows that Jacob Cowing will get some ops. Could we see maybe that deep post, maybe split the safeties like what happened to the 49ers? Because I'm looking around the league, Jason, and the biggest play of the game obviously was that 97-yard touchdown from Sam Darnold to Justin Jefferson and split the 49ers safeties. And we see there's so much talk about the 2 deep safeties this week and around the NFL, and passing is down. And it's like, well, there's still teams hitting guys over the top. It happened to the 49ers. And guess what? Clint Kubiak, former San Francisco 49ers coach just last year. What does he do? He goes to the Saints. They're putting up 40 points a game. And Derek Carr, 70-yard bomb on a 2-man route, max protect, just like the Niners got hit with. And Clint Kubiak's dialing it up from Carr to Shaheem Rashid, split the safeties on a 2-man route. It wasn't the dagger concept, which is the post and dig. It's the Yankee concept that the Saints utilized against the Dallas Cowboys, which is that deep post, but with a deep crosser coming from the other side. And can we have one of those? Like, is it too much to ask? Kyle Shanahan's proteges, Bobby Slowick's able to make big plays and utilize that, you know, splitting those 2 deep safeties. So it's not like you can't make big plays just because there's 2 safeties that are back. I would like the 49ers to hit one of those, whether it's Brandon Ayuk or maybe it's the 4.3 speed Jacob Cowing that's going to get an opportunity on offense with Debo and more folks out on the 49ers offense. That maybe that little bit of speed is what the 49ers need. A little juice on offense this week.
I'd love that. I just don't think Kyle's going to. And I think that, like, John speaks sometimes and Kyle's like, I'm not doing that. Like, why would you say that? You know, and I think you're going to see more Jawan Jennings in this than anything.
You're saying that John Lynch is like, hey, Kyle, you should do this. Not that, this is what's probably going to happen because I've been watching practice. Okay.
I mean, Jacob Cowing has to get snaps just based on, depth, like, right? But, like, I would still say it's Ayuk, Jennings, and Conley. And I think that's kind of where he's going to lean because it's less about the talent and the trust. Do I trust? Alexa, turn off. I'm spooking. I'm cooking here. All right. And the too high safety thing is so interesting, right? Because the way you beat too high is you got to run the football, pull them up to the line of scrimmage. Let's pull them up. And Kyle Shanahan was asked about play action, and he said, "Look, we weren't getting the looks that we wanted. That's a team to team thing." Funny enough, the Rams have the fifth least coverage. The fifth least coverage changeability. So they're pretty much running the same thing over and over, and they run one of the lowest rates of too high. They're very a single high team. There's got to be a lot of these run the football play action moves in this game that I think are going to happen. That you may not hit anybody up top with Jacob Cowing, but there's going to be Juwan Jennings on one of the condensed blitz digs, and they'll be able to hit him over the middle of the field. Yeah, this has to be very much just run the football, pull those guys up. Let's throw it behind their head. In that way, I still don't want to see Brock Purdy go back and drop back 35 times. That's not the way you're going to win this game efficiently. But I think for all the talk about the too high thing, the Rams don't run it. And I think what Kyle was talking about in the offense, talking about like, why haven't you been throwing play action, is one, Brian Flores is taking all that away. And you don't want Brock to turn his back with the way that they were disguising everything. Look at one thing, turn his back, come back, see something completely different and get him out of whack. So I think that's a little bit interesting as well, too. But as far as Cowing, I absolutely agree with you. I would run him from the slot. I would try to create moves for him and opportunities and mismatches against those guys. I think Kyle's just going to run Jennings, Conley, and Ayuk, and he's going to try to run the ball and get up out of there. I mean, if he wants to design a deep shot or a shot play for him, that'd be cool. But that trust thing, it's like he's not in a circle of trust, Fokker. He's just not in a circle of trust.
He also muffed that punt last week.
I know.
Like, this is the quick way to get in the doghouse. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if you don't see or you don't see Cowing, period, on the field. If it wasn't for the Debo injury, I would probably put the over/under on at 0.5 for him touching the ball, period. Maybe not even. I was like, oh man, they're going to call up Taylor, right, from the practice squad.
Of course they are.
Because he muffed the punt. But
and you know what? And you'll see him running routes before Jacob Cowing too.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if John Lynch was right, if he's throwing people off the scent with the Cowing comment. But it would be fun to see him because he was a shot in the arm in that preseason game. And it really just made me realize how slow the 49ers are on offense. Like, they've got playmakers, they got dynamic guys, they've got badasses everywhere. But speed isn't necessarily the thing the 49ers have.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is, what's wrong with throwing Cowing a tunnel screen and getting everybody in front of him and allowing him to operate from there? What's wrong with, whatever jet sweep you're going to run, with Debo? What's wrong with trying that and seeing if you could hit the edge there? I think it's a great idea. I think it's a logical idea. I think you drafted the guy. Why not play him? But Kyle Shanahan just has this thing about who he trusts. Who does he trust? He's going to trust Conley. He's obviously going to trust Juwan Jennings. I think it's going to be those three guys. I don't think we start to see them get split out wide with all these guys. I would even say this. I think this is going to piss you off as much as it is once I say it. I saw Ronnie Bell running routes against the Minnesota Vikings and not Jacob Cowing. What are the odds that even Ronnie Bell gets more snaps than Jacob Cowing in this game, which to me does not make any sense?
Ronnie Bell is the big beneficiary of all these injuries and the injury bug and the hold in from Brandon Ayuk, because I don't think he was going to make the roster. And Kyle Shanahan admitted that the numbers that they took from camp that made the roster were changed because of the situation with Brandon Ayuk and not knowing what that was going to look like. And Kyle trusts himself a veteran. So we'll see. And hopefully the muffed punt last week didn't get Cowing in the doghouse, because I think the 49ers need that juice on offense, especially with Debo out. Give teams a little bit of a different look. And when it comes to Brandon Ayuk, look, I think with Brandon Ayuk, and we've talked about this a lot on Locked On 49ers, and Crocker always brings up the point that he would understand if the 49ers didn't want to pay him $30 million, because judging by how they use him, they don't value him that way. And we've seen that the first 2 weeks of the season. Now, he hasn't played 100% of the snaps, but he's been on the field enough to make enough plays, and he's been open enough too to make some plays. And he's just not early enough in the progressions. He's not a big part of it. And the 49ers in the Kyle Shanahan era have always have always erred on the side of let's dial it up for Debo. Let's draw up things in the scripted plays where like we are force feeding him the football. We're force feeding Christian McCaffrey the football. And there have always been a team, even before McCaffrey, that's going to feature the running back, and they're trying to run the ball. Like Kyle wants to stay in front of the sticks, and that's how he runs his entire offense. He doesn't run his offense by just sitting back and chucking it and 5 to 7 step drops and third and longs. He wants third and shorts, and he wants to stay in front of the sticks. He wants to stay on the right side of the scoreboard and be able to utilize the entire playbook, and that's obviously how he runs his football team and how he runs his offense. But I think they could bet. I think the entire offense and Brandon Ayuk specifically could benefit from getting early touches, a screen pass, give him a jet sweep, get the ball in his hands, like draw things up and utilize him early in football games to get him going, and then allow him to make plays in the flow of the offense on top of that. And they have to do it this week. They have no choice. They just gave him a huge wide receiver 1, top of the market contract. They better give him the ball 10 times in the first quarter. You know what I mean? Like they better force it to him, screens, all levels of the field. Like Brandon Ayuk needs to go crazy in this game.
And I think 49er fans, they've already been kind of on the side of, well, you did all this in the offseason and this is how you're going. This is the quintessential game for him to like, this fan base will jump all over him if this isn't a game where he's involved or has an impact. Again, I don't pocket watch. I'm talking about the player himself. The player himself, I don't care what he's being paid. I know is still a very good player. But 49er fans are getting impatient. Now, when you look at all of these injuries, it has to be, right? It has to be. And yeah, sure, the Rams aren't just going to let him run around by himself. I'm sure that they'll swing some coverages his way. They'll move some guys around. But that's any guy that is of that ilk of any sort of all-pro. CeeDee Lamb doesn't get one-on-ones all the time. They swing coverages his way. Do you think Justin Jefferson's running by himself? Okay, he might have been running by himself with Odom and Jair Brown around him. But everybody swings their coverages that way. If you are the guy that we think you are, and I still believe he is, doesn't matter what they throw at you, you've got to have a game in this game. And you have to be lockstep with Brock Purdy. And if you need a big third down, it has to be, where's our guy? Where's our money guy? And I don't mean money like his paycheck. I think, again, the player that I believe he is, that's what I'm holding him up as. Is Brandon Ayuk's a very good football player. I don't care what he gets paid. It's not my money. But, yeah, it has to be a game where no matter what they're throwing at you, I don't want to hear, yeah, they're doing this. It happens to a lot of people. They're not going to be able to take you out of this game. Don't let them take you out of this game.
And a little portal into the future, too, Jason.
Yes.
Because 2026, we're already seeing it. Wheels fall off for running backs really quickly. Age 28. I mean, it's almost like clockwork with Christian McCaffrey. It's insane, right? Oh, you lead the league in touches for 2 years, 28 years old. Oh, guess what? Achilles. Sorry. It's like, geez, okay, it's going to happen. Is it going to happen that quickly? We don't know what Christian McCaffrey is going to look like. Is this going to linger all year for him? Is that Achilles going to pop? And it's the nature of the running back position. George Kittle's already on the wrong side of 30. His contract will be up in not too long into the future. Deebo Samuel's going to go into the last year of his contract if he's not traded. And so you're going to pay most likely a whole lot of money, and you already did to Brandon Ayuk, and now you're going to do it for your quarterback in Brock Purdy. Well, that's going to have to be the connection going forward. So we're going to get a little look into the future of what a future 49ers passing game, what a future 49ers offense might look like. And look, they're going to add other players. If Kittle's gone and Deebo's gone and Christian McCaffrey's gone, Jordan Mason already looks like he's a really good running back. They're going to add other pieces. We'll see what Ricky Pearsall is. It's not like you're just not going to have guys on the football field with Brandon Ayuk and Brock Purdy, but you signed him to be a number one wide receiver. You gave him number one wide receiver money. And there's going to be a time when he's going to be the main guy, hopefully. And so we kind of get a little glimpse into what that future might look like with the unfortunate early injuries this year.
Okay. And what else are we getting a glimpse into the future of with Brock Purdy as our starting quarterback, making whatever it is that he's making? And, I've seen a lot of discourse about this. And obviously this is the moment that Brock Purdy detractors, haters, down players have kind of been waiting for. right? Because last season, everybody was essentially available. They tried to jump on that 3-game stretch when Debo and Trent weren't there. But now you might be looking at what it looks like for Brock and Ayuk. And I'm going to stand very, very pat here. I don't need Brock Purdy to throw for 300 yards in this game for me to say, oh, I'm good with him going forward. I need Brock Purdy to operate this offense, not turn the football over, make the right throws at the right time, at the biggest times. He could throw for 225 yards and 1 touchdown, and I could look and say, I feel fine about what this will look like going forward. It's not all about that. In my opinion, this is the moment that everybody's kind of waiting for from Brock. What do you do? But I don't think stats are going to bear out how you feel about Brock going into this out of this game. If he throws for 345 yards, that's either the 49ers blew them out 40-0 or they lost. And that's not a good thing. I don't like that idea, because then you're playing into something that you're not good at. It's about winning this game, and can Brock lift just a little? Just a little. We don't need Brock to carry everything, just a little. And we are going to get a glimpse of both those guys. And I think that's what a lot of Brock Purdy haters and detractors are. This is their moment right now. This is like their Super Bowl.
Yeah, look, if Brock Purdy struggles without McCaffrey and Debo for a few weeks, you could bet that John Lynch and Parag Marathe are going to bring that up in contract negotiations.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on, $60 million? You saw what it looked like without the Avengers on offense. Maybe, what about $45 million? So I wonder gosh. We're talking about twice as much money potentially per year as what we saw with Brandon Ayuk. How's that contract negotiation is going to go next year? And I think it's actually kind of a little bit more difficult, because I think everyone agreed on who Brandon Ayuk is and what he is and kind of where he ranks in the NFL amongst wide receivers. I think that's a much more difficult thing to answer for Brock Purdy amongst quarterbacks.
And that's the thing that they did to Brandon Ayuk as well, too. They said, we love you. We love your talent. Yeah, you're a second team All-Pro, but 100 targets, 77 catches. Yeah, you had a great yards per reception and your receiving yards. But that's the thing, is people don't like hearing that your ownership and your front office is bringing up these negatives, but negotiations are like that across the board in any job, right? Like, hey, Brian, you're my boss. I would love to get a raise. Hey, Jason, we think you're a valuable member of the team, and we think that you're your hero. But you kind of were late like 2 weeks ago. You were late on that one report, like when we really needed it, and you parked on the line in your parking spot. Like, so I don't know. Let's revisit this. Though that's the way these negotiations are going to go. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Like, if Brock goes out there and does something unforeseen, like I don't think it's. I mean, it's a possibility. I just think it's low on the scale of what can happen. If Brock goes out there and throws for 304 touchdowns and just lights everybody up, then it's just like, all right, man, like that's something different. But I don't see that being necessary, and I don't see that being a path to victory that needs to happen for the 49ers.
More likely. And I don't think Brock Purdy is going to struggle or fall on his face either. More likely, what I think is going to happen is I think the Niners are going to look efficient against the Rams. And right. I think they're going to run the ball, and that's going to set up a ton of passing plays. I think they're going to feature Brandon Ayuk. I think he's going to get the ball early in some short catch and run situations. He's going to make some big plays and have like 12 catches for 150 and at least one score. I think we're going to see that kind of a stat line. And I think that's what we're going to get a glimpse into in the future. And we'll see, what the target share ends up looking like when McCaffrey and Debo Samuel are back on the 49ers offense. But I think that's what we're going to see. And we're going to see, other guys filter in. We're going to see some 3rd and Juwan, and we're going to see some, we're going to see a ton of Jordan Mason, I'm sure. Maybe even some Garendo carries. Maybe Garendo will gain a yard. Maybe Jacob Cowling will run a route on offense. Who knows? Might see some rookies make an appearance on offense.
The funniest part about the whole Jordan Mason thing is the 49ers were like, our backup running back is Debo. That's who we're going to siphon off for like 8 carries. And it's just like, okay. Again, yeah. And now, okay. So the Garendo thing happens, and for anybody that wants to understand, what the assignments are in running, I implore you to go listen to Chris Forrester's offensive line, the offensive line coach. He talked yesterday at the press conference. Oh my God, did he give a detailed expression about what happened with Garendo, where he was supposed to be pressing, why he was supposed to keep going outside to create the cutback lane because it flows other defenders the other way. It's all stuff that he said that Jordan Mason struggled with, that other guys struggled with. But Chris Forrester, it is such a joy to listen to him talk about running the football and offensive line play, because he really just doesn't say, yeah, he missed an opportunity. He literally explains what Guerrero is supposed to be doing, what's the effect on the defense, and how you can take advantage of that. So, yeah, look, Guerrero's got to get snaps. I would have loved to see Jordan Mason get 5 more touches, at least in that Minnesota game, especially on 4th and 1, whatever. We don't have to talk about that. But in this game, you still can't just – it's probably got to be Jordan Mason 25, 27, but it'd be really cool if you can get Isaac Guerrero or somebody else involved. I don't know if Patrick Taylor's the answer either.
You throw the ball Guerrero too, because I want to see this receiving ability. He's a former wide receiver, and I think he's got that. And he might not be an every down true running back. I mean, he started 1 game in college, right? Yeah. But if he's got a mixture of talents, well, utilize those talents. 49ers don't like I talked about the featuring Christian McCaffrey thing. McCaffrey's running back catches are usually designed. Like the Niners aren't a dump the ball to your running back kind of an offense. And
wait, Brian. Hold on, Brian. I was told that it's all checkdowns to McCaffrey. No, those are them saying we get a matchup we like, we're going to use him that way. No. That's not a checkdown.
No, and feel free to use this if you want. Just credit me. Aggressively intermediate. That's what it is. That's what the 49ers offense is. That's what Kyle Shanahan's offense is. That's the way Brock Purdy throws. He's not a check down guy. There's a reason that he's got a lot of yards per reception when he throws, because yards per completion, because he's aggressively intermediate. They don't throw a bunch of short stuff. They don't throw a bunch of check downs. They might not throw the ball deep a ton, but they will take some shots. But man, they are aggressively intermediate. We saw Jimmy. We've seen it time and time again with Kyle's offenses, and Brock Purdy's the perfect example for it. And he's really good in that area of the field.
All right. Well, you mentioned them. We might as well bring it up. There's no way that we could discuss this Rams game without talking about he who shall not be named, the handsome one, Jimmy Garoppolo. A lot's been made of the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo played scout team Brock Purdy for the Los Angeles Rams. Kyle Shanahan kind of gave a little bit of a snippy answer today in the press conference. It wouldn't be right for the 49ers to go up against a team that has Jimmy Garoppolo on their roster without at least bringing him up. And Kyle did not like that answer at all, or that question at all.
Well, it's funny because you know what's insane is how it's only been just a little over a year since the 49ers traded away Trey Lance. Mm-hmm. Doesn't that seem like it was a decade ago now?
Yep.
But remember, everybody brought it up with the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, Trey Lance, he's going to be on the Cowboys, he's going to give them the edge. And it's like, that didn't happen. Not going to happen. It's not going to happen with Jimmy G either. You think Sean McVay doesn't know what Kyle Shanahan offense
does? Thank you. You think so? That's my thing. The familiarity between both these teams, and Kyle Shanahan literally talked about, Raheem Morris isn't over there with the Rams defense, but they're running a lot of the same stuff. It's the same base. They're not changing anything. You think that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to go in there like, hey, Sean, I got the keys here. They know what's going on. That's why they play each other so closely. That's why they're so familiar with each other.
The thing that's going to make the difference is that they don't have Aaron Donald to make all 10 other guys better on their defense now. And I think that was underrated this offseason, how much that was going to impact them, even though they added a 1st and 2nd round defensive lineman to that group. It's a bad group on defense, man. And if the 49ers can't torch that group, then maybe there is something wrong with a Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk-led offense, because there should be plenty of opportunities for the 49ers offense on Sunday.
Yeah, look, again, you never take any game for granted. But if the 49ers go out and they just look putrid, we may have a bigger discussion to have, because there's no easy wins in this league. And I fully expect Sean McVay to come out with a game plan, especially off the top. Like if the 49ers, you can't let them get rolling. Like you can't let them put together a drive right away, or like start to get comfortable and start to get into it. Right, like you've got to knock that off immediately. But we may have a bigger discussion to talk about, if the 49ers go out there and they look putrid on Sunday, man. But I don't think that'll happen. I just don't think that will happen. But that is a possible outcome.
You mentioned the 4th and 2 or the 4th and 1 or whatever it is you mentioned a little bit ago, and I wanted to ask you about this because I didn't love, and look, I hate this because it's like Kyle Shanahan's one of the best play callers in the NFL. So he's not like, oh, Kyle, that was a bad play call. But I hated the 4th and 2 call in that I love the 49ers being aggressive and going for it on 4th down. I had no problems with it. Look, you didn't get it. Good luck against our defense. And they beat you. What? It's going to happen. Right. You tip your cap. I didn't like shotgun 4th and goal from the 2. You got to have the threat of a run, right? And does that change the way Van Ginkel plays it? Is Van Ginkel not just sitting there basically face guarding on a quick throw?
If you have to get 1 yard, why start 3 back? I don't understand that part. I mean, and you're just giving it away that it's obviously that you're not going to hand the football off to Jordan Mason right there and say, start running now. Look, I love the aggressiveness. That's been a thing that I've been yelling at Kyle Shanahan about. Love coach, but damn, please go for it on fourth down. And obviously it's not what you want. You get it tipped there, and it was open. It was a fine play call. It would have been a touchdown. But yeah, I absolutely hated the shotgun look. I don't like it from the one. I think you've got Mason. You're running the football outside. What about that? If you don't get that either, they still have to go 99 yards. Spoiler alert, they did. But come on, like if you need one, why go back 3? And just really, you're like a little bit too cute right there. Like hand the football off and just try again with Mason to the right side. Run him back out there. You've had nothing but success with that all game.
And how about this? What if you do run the ball? And look, I'm not saying they could have called the same exact play, but do it from under center. You know what I mean? Like I just don't like going shotgun and you're pretty clearly going to throw and not run. And you take away 50% of what a defense has to defend. But let's say they did run the ball, whether it was out of shotgun or not, and they get stopped, but Jordan Mason gets halfway there. Then they're closer backed up to the goal line. Do they run the same set of plays? Do they hit the 97-yarder? Because maybe there's a different down and distance situation too. So, and obviously that's the butterfly effect, and that could lead to a whole bunch of different things. But again, getting as close as possible to the goal line and not getting in isn't the worst thing. And an incomplete pass means you're even not as close. And look, the wide receiver was open there, but guess what? Van Ginkel knew that you're throwing the football. He's not going to go try to beat Trent Williams in a pass rush and beat him in half a second. So he's like, cool, I know you're throwing. I don't have to worry about setting the edge here. I'm just going to go like this and bat a ball down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, all he has to do is essentially just rush up to the line and then get back, watch the eyes, and just get his hands up. I mean, Van Ginkel's one of the best right now at least through 2 weeks. With the way he's been playing, man. But
I heard he was their secret superstar, and that checks out after watching that game. He's a pretty good player.
Yeah, Flores loved him in Miami. Like, again, that connection of like, I had you here, like, let's bring you in and let's, and I know what you can do, and I think that's really interesting. I think that's what made that matchup so interesting. Is like after the Jets game, I said, yeah, the Jets have more star power on defense, but Minnesota's defense is better because of the sum of their parts and their play caller. And you saw that on Sunday. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that one.
All right, we got some party people that want to go out maybe on their Friday night. So let's wrap this up here in a few minutes. I want to see some predictions, though, in the chat. Let us know how you think this thing's going to go. Jason, do you want to drop a prediction here for Sunday?
Yeah, I dropped one on Niners Nation, so I'll just tail it. 27-17. I still think the 49ers score 3 touchdowns, get 2 field goals from, Jake Moody. I think when you look at this defense, there's got to be ways for you to still run the football, be able to put yourself in a spot where you're in third and close, make those plays. I think, again, it just becomes a little bit too much. This game is a little hairy at halftime. Maybe the 49ers are up, 14-10, but it gets a little bit further out. I got the Niners 27-17, and they kind of run away with this thing towards the end.
Rams are in a bad place, and I think it's the perfect team for the 49ers to be playing right now at Levi's South. There's no home field advantage for the Rams down there. From what I understand, talking to the host of Locked On Rams, 70% of those tickets are going to 49ers fans right now in LA. And, that's pretty par for the course when they play there. Niners are banged up, but the Rams are just as banged up. And I think that Rams defense is a problem, and they might score a few points. They might still be able to rustle up an offense with McVay and Stafford, and their stable of running backs. But, offensive line a little banged up. I think the 49ers are just going to score a lot more, and I think it's going to end up being like 30-13. I think it's going to be a multi-score win for the San Francisco 49ers. And despite having numerous players out on offense, they're going to put up points.
I like it. 27-30. We're close. We're in lockstep. I think, again, I think Sean McVay is like the perfect coach to kind of keep them in this game. So I do think it's a little weird, like in the beginning, or like where they're trying to like almost feel each other out. But I think the 49ers just end up having too much. I think this is a big Jawan Jennings game.
And I think the Niners losing last week really hurts the Rams in this one too, because they weren't, couldn't have been a game that you look past. The Niners are going to be pissed off, and they kind of got slapped in the face a little bit by the Vikings last week. And they're reminded in the NFL that you can't go lay an egg and expect to go win, even if you think you have a better roster top to bottom. And I still think the 49ers are better than the Vikings, but they weren't on that day. And they got to be better on Sunday. And I think we're going to see a better San Francisco 49ers, despite having numerous players out.
Yeah. And I have a bold prediction. Isaac Guerrero makes a big play on special teams on the kickoff since Debo's not here. Yeah.
Okay, so I might have to up it to like 35 for the Niners.
I think he flips the field a little bit on one play, like especially like it's a time when the Niners need it. I think
over under 1.5 receptions for Jacob Cowing.
Under, but I would love for it to be over. I would be one of the guys trying to force feed him, but I think again the trust thing. I think it's Ayuk. I think it's Jennings. I think it's Conley. I think that's it. I would probably see myself clear of saying that I think that Jake Tonjes might have a chance at more catches in this game because Sauber's going to be the blocking tight end. On duty.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Maybe a big juice game too. If he's like doing tight end duties and he's on the field a lot, fullback and tight end, maybe he's on the field more often than he would have been.
Yeah, maybe a little
40% time.
A little stalk rail, you got to find a way to get him in, get him down the field, throw the football to him. I think again, yes, his effect on the run game is evident, but he's also we've all been at training camp when he's been in front of Fred Warner and whipped him like on a route. Like, why is it that we can't ever get anything like that? Kyle, you gotta find a way to just use it instead of one shot play that's out of nowhere. Maybe a little bit more.
Draft Brandon Ayuk on your DFS teams. That's my advice. It's time for him to go big. He's going to get the ball early and often in this game to set the tone for what the future of the San Francisco 49ers passing offense might look like. And Jordan Mason, too, is going to run the ball because he's a straight-up dude. And I don't think the Rams have answers on their front seven for what the 49ers are about to bring on Sunday. Jason, let the folks know where they can find you and all your podcasts.
So at 8:15, 5:15 Pacific time, sprint right option with Andrew Pasquini. We're gonna break it down. Like, we have a good group, so you guys make sure you tap in with that. And then Niners Nation, I'll be posting my prop bets. The only reason I didn't was because there were none while they were waiting for George Kittle updates. So that'll be next up for Niners Nation, and then instant reaction after the game. And obviously, like and subscribe to the YouTube and everything. It helps us out. The like helps us out a lot, man. The subscribe helps us out just as much. And the best part about it is they're both free.
Yeah, just hit that thumbs up. Let us know you swung by. We appreciate everybody jumping in. Saw hundreds of folks hanging out with us live here talking 49ers. Jason, always a pleasure chatting with you. You can find me at BD Peacock on Twitter. Make sure you're listening to myself and Eric Crocker every day on Locked On 49ers. I break down the entire NFL with former NFL scout Matt Williamson on the Locked On Network as well on the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. And, of course, right here, OT with BP simulcasting with Jason Aponte's channel as well. And having a lot of fun doing this with you, Jason, every week. So let's keep it going. I don't even care what day it is.
Hell yeah, we'll figure it out. And I think that's the best part. You and I we just chat and we're like, hey, this day, no, it's cool, but we'll get it done. We're in full swing. If we can't get excited and have fun now during football season, then when the hell will we? Because we'll be begging for content in the middle of the off season.
That's right. All right. We'll talk to you next week right here on Peacock and Aponte.